they prohibited the goods and services to maintain the public order and standards, decency or morality. Sometimes if we goes on importing all kinds of goods and services from India to other country, to the international market, if the quality of that particular product is not good, then they think that all the Indian products are not good. The prevention of injury of economy of the country by the uncontrollable imports and exports of gold and silver and any other goods. Hello everyone, I am Arun Kumar, lecturer in Department of Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. Dear students, welcome to this new session on unit number 6, that is Customs Act 1962, which is there for 6th Sem BCom students who are studying under University of Mysuru. Dear students, in this particular sessions, we will be discussing about customs duty. So what is customs duty and how it is imposed and how we calculate the value. So everything will be discussed in this particular session. So now, just to know what is customs duty in general, okay, if we know the meaning of customs duty in general, then obviously easily we can find out the definition of customs duty. So customs duty is an indirect tax imposed under the Customs Act formulated in 1962. Yes, custom duty is an indirect tax. So in taxation we have two types of taxes. One is direct tax, another one is indirect tax. So customs tax, this will falls under indirect tax system. So it is a indirect tax imposed as Customs Act formulated in 1962. So this Customs Act is formulated in 1962. As per the rules and regulations of 1962 Act, this customs duty will be imposed on some goods and services. So the Customs Act 1962 is a basic statute which governs entry or exit of different categories of vessels, aircrafts, goods, passengers, etc. into or outside the country. Yes, this customs duty will be imposed on entry and exit of some goods and services and some passengers from other country or from our country to other country, like from outside the country, and if you are sending any goods or services from our country, this customs duty is applicable. So customs duty is nothing but it is a duty imposed under the Customs Act 1962 and it is imposed on the imports and exports. It is imposed on imports and exports, that is called customs duty. And the act extends to the whole of the India. Yes, in all India only one law is applicable, that is Customs Act 1962. So in all India they follow the same rules and regulations, they impose the same rate of tax, and whatever the amendments will be taken place, all the amendments will be applicable to the whole India. So every person who comes under this particular kind of tax, they have to follow the Customs Act 1962 rules and regulations. Customs Act 1962. So just like any other tax laws, is primarily for the levy and collection of duty, but at the same time it has the other and equal important purpose, such as, yes, customs duty is a kind of duty where we are imposing some rate of tax on goods and services and also on some other kind of transactions, okay. But it is not only just for imposing the tax on goods and services, but it also have some other benefits, okay. Which are those benefits? Regulation of imports and exports. Yes, so why this customs duty important? This custom duty is very much important to regulate the imports and exports which happens in a particular country. If you are importing, then we have certain rules and regulations. If you are exporting from India to other country, we have some rules and regulations. So this customs duty is going to help us to regulate the imports and exports which happens in a particular country. And protection of domestic industry. Yes, why this customs duty is most important? So customs duty is most important, and the main purpose of custom duty is also to safeguard or protect the domestic industries. Domestic industries are nothing but our Indian industries. So we later on will be knowing that why it is important. So how they will protect our domestic industries, later on you will get to know. Next, prevention of smuggling. Yes, if there is no customs law, if there is no tax on imports and exports, what people will do? The people will start exporting some precious metals from our country to other countries, or other country people dump their products to our country. So without intimating to the authority or the government, what they'll do, simply they transport the goods from one country to other country, and the smuggling activities will be more. So if we have customs duty, if we have rules and regulations under customs duty, then it is very difficult to do such kind of things, that is smuggling and all. Next, conservation and augmentation of foreign exchange and so on. Yes, so we have a concept called balance of payment. If you are importing more, the balance of payment will be in a negative way. If you are exporting more, then the balance of payment will be equal and the currency value will increase. So this customs duty will help us in taking more foreign currencies, in accepting more foreign currencies. So it is not only just to impose the tax on the goods or services, but it is also important, the customs duty is also important, and the purpose of customs duty is to regulation of imports and exports and protection of domestic industry and prevention of smuggling and conservation and augmentation of foreign exchange and so on. Next, meaning of customs duty. So far we got to know in general what is customs duty, and other than imposing the tax, what are the other purpose of customs duty. So now if you look into the meaning of customs duty, so what does it mean? Customs duty refers to the tax imposed on the goods when they are transported across the international borders. Yes, customs duty refers to the tax imposed on the goods when they are transported across the international borders. Yes, if the goods are transporting from one country to other country, for example, the goods are transferring from India to Sri Lanka. So India to Sri Lanka. So here the transaction is happening between two countries. So here you can see we have the border between India and Sri Lanka. If you want to transact between Sri Lanka and India, you are supposed to pay customs duty to the government. Then only they allow you to pay the tax to the government. Next, the objective behind levying customs duty is to safeguard each nation's economy, jobs, environment, residents, etc. by regulating the movement of goods, especially prohibited and restricted goods in and out of the country. Yes, so this customs duty's main objective is to safeguard the nation's economy, jobs, environments and residents, and also especially to prohibit or restrict the goods which goes out of the country. So if there is no customs duty, if there is no rules and regulations on imports and exports, what will happen? Without taking the permission of the government or without taking the permission of any authority, the people will start doing the business between two countries. At that time, it may affect our domestic country. It may affect the jobs in particular domestic country. It may affect on the economy of the particular country. So that is why this custom duty is going to regulate those kind of factors. So customs duty, it refers to the tax imposed on the goods when they are transported across the international borders, and the objective behind levying customs duty is to safeguard each nation's economy, jobs, environment, residents, etc. by regulating the movement of goods, especially prohibited and restrictive goods in and out of any country. Next, moving further, specific taxes. Yes, in customs duty, we have two types of taxes. One is specific tax. The another one is ad valorem tax. So one is specific tax, another one is ad valorem tax. So the tax sometimes will be imposed based on the value of the product or the service. Okay. tax will be imposed based on the value of the product. In sometimes the tax will be imposed based on the quantity, Sometimes the tax will be imposed based on the units, number of units or the quantity. In sometimes the tax will be imposed based on the value of the product. So specific duty or specific taxes, what does it mean? A specific excise tax is levied based on quantity. Yes, specific tax, specific duty is nothing but the tax imposed based on the quantity, not based on the value. It is based on quantity. It is thus proportional to the particular quantity of a product sold regardless of its price. Yes, in specific duty, if they are imposing specific duty, they impose the duty based on the quantity, not based on the price of the product. Okay, so whatever the price is, but they never look into the price of the product. Instead, what they will do, based on the number of quantities sold, they impose the tax. If they are imposing the tax based on quantity, then it is called specific duty or specific taxes. Moving on, ad valorem taxes or ad valorem duty. So an ad valorem exercise is levied based on the value. Yes, specific duty will be imposed based on the quantity, but the ad valorem duty will be imposed based on the value of the product, that is the price of the product. It is a charge based on the fixed percentage of the product value. Per unit taxes have administrative advantages when it is easy to measure quantities of the product or services being sold. Yes, here the ad valorem duty is imposed based on the value of the product, and on that value, on the value of the product or the price of the product, what they'll do, they collect the tax based on the fixed percentage. If the value of the product is 10,000, for example, if the value is 10,000, if the tax applicable is 20%, so what they'll do, they collect the tax 20% on 10,000. So how much they'll collect? They collect 2,000. So in this way, they collect the tax under ad valorem duty. Under specific duty, if he is purchasing like 10 units, okay, if he is purchasing 10 units, then what he'll do, he'll be collecting 100 rupees per unit. So 100 rupees per unit. So for 10 units, how much you'll get? You'll get 1,000. Okay, so if they are imposing the tax based on the number of units, based on the quantity, it is called specific duty. And in case if they are imposing the tax based on the value of the product, then it is called ad valorem duty. So moving further, prohibitions on importation and exportation of goods. Prohibition under importation and exportation of goods. So some goods are prohibited to import or to export from the country. So okay, na? So in that, the first one, the maintenance of the security of India. Yes, why they restrict, why they prohibit to import or export some goods is because the first reason is the maintenance of the security of India. So to maintain the security of India, they prohibited some goods and services to import and export. Next one, the maintenance of public order and standards of decency and morality. Yes, they prohibited the goods and services to maintain the public order and standards, decency or morality. Next one, the prevention of smuggling. Yes, to prevent smuggling, to avoid smuggling, they prohibited importation and exportation of some goods. Next, the prevention of shortage of goods of any description. Yes, sometimes we will only facing the shortage of goods. What we will do, we will export. At that time, there will be a scarcity for that particular product. So to avoid that shortage of goods in a particular domestic country, okay, as Indians, here we will be paying 100 rupees per kg for tomato. We will be exporting tomatoes to other country. We have the shortage of tomato, but still what we are doing, we are exporting it. So to avoid that, to control the shortage of goods, they prohibit some kind of goods under importation and exportation. Next one, the conservation of foreign exchange and the safeguarding of balance of payment. Yes, in order to conserve the foreign currency and to safeguard the balance of payment, the importation and exportations are prohibited. If we give all facilities, if we liberalize the law to export the goods and services, whatever the goods and services they want to export, then the balance of payment not possible to safeguard the balance of payment, then our country currency value will increase. So that is why, to safeguard the balance of payment and to conserve the foreign currency, they prohibited importation and exportation of some goods. Next one, the prevention of injury to the economy of the country by the uncontrolled import and export of gold, silver or any other goods. So the prevention of injury of economy of the country by the uncontrollable imports and exports of gold and silver and any other goods. Yes, if there is no rules and regulations, if there is no restrictions on importing and exporting of gold and silver, then it indirectly affects on our economy. It indirectly affects on our economy. So for that purpose, what we will do? We put some restrictions on importation and exportation. Next, moving further, the prevention of surplus of any agricultural product or the product of fisheries. Yes, to prevent the surplus of any agricultural product. Okay, surplus of any agricultural product and the product of fisheries. If you have any surplus of agricultural products, then it will be useful for our people only, our country people only. If we goes on exporting those surplus agricultural products, then sometime we'll only face the shortage of goods, shortage of the agricultural products. So to avoid those kind of confusions, to avoid those kind of problems, they impose the prohibition of importation and exportation of goods. Next one, the maintenance of standards for the classification, grading or marketing of goods in the international trade. Yes, sometimes if we goes on importing all kinds of goods and services from India to other country, to the international market, if the quality of that particular product is not good, then they think that all the Indian products are not good. So in order to control it, in order to reduce those kind of impacts on Indian market, what they'll do, they just do grading and then they'll send the goods to international market. If the quality of the goods is not good, if it is not a qualified one, then what they'll do? They impose the prohibition on those kind of goods. So by imposing the prohibition, what they're doing? They are maintaining the standard of India. They are maintaining the standard of India. Next, the establishment of any industry. So yes, there is a prohibition on importation and exportation of goods with respect to establishment of any industries. Next, the prevention of serious injury to domestic production of goods of any description. Yes, sometimes we will only facing the shortage of raw materials and we will send this raw materials, the available raw materials, to the international market. So when we are only facing the problem of shortage of raw materials, if we are sending it to the international market, then it will be a problem for our domestic countries. Then it is not possible to them to produce the products. To avoid that confusion, to have a control on it, so they impose prohibition. Next, the production of human, animal or plant life or health. Yes, with the intention of protecting the human, animal and plant life, they impose some prohibitions. Next, the protection of national treasures of artistic, historic or archaeological value. Yes, to give the protection of national treasures of artistic, historic and archaeological values, they impose some prohibitions and on importations and exportations. Moving further, the conservation of exhaustible natural resources. Yes, every resource is not renewable. Few resources are exhaustible. You can't renew it again. So in order to have a control on it, in order to conserve those kind of exhaustible resources, we impose prohibitions. Next, the last one, the production of patents, trademark, that is copyright, designs and geographical indications. So to protect the patents and trademarks, we impose prohibition. So these are all the reasons why we put prohibitions on importation and exportation of goods to India or from India to other country. So moving further, types of customs duties. Yes, we have different types of customs duty. We will be imposing the customs duty in different levels. So the first type of custom duty is basic custom duty. The second one, additional custom duty. Next, countervailing duty, protective duty, anti-dumping duty and social and welfare surcharge. So we will be imposing the customs duty in this many levels. Firstly, we will be imposing basic custom duty, next additional customs duty, countervailing duty, protective duty, anti-dumping duty and social and welfare surcharge. So while we will be solving the problems, we will get to know how to impose these duties. Next, how is customs duty calculated? So how is custom duty calculated? How we calculate? So every import is subject to duty. Yes, if you are importing, it is subject to duty. That person is supposed to pay tax to the government. And there are aspects that determine the charge. Yes, we have so many aspects which determine the tax. In that, the first duty levied is basic customs duty. Yes, firstly, we will be imposing the basic custom duty on imported product. Next, what we will do, 10% of social welfare surcharge is levied on the value of the goods. Yes, on the value of the goods. You're going to find out the value of the goods. On the value of the goods, 10% surcharge, that is social welfare surcharge, is applicable. Next, IGST is levied, which is a combination of factors such as basic custom duty, social welfare surcharge and entry value. So here, after imposing the basic custom duty and social welfare surcharge, we are supposed to impose IGST. We are supposed to impose IGST, and IGST will be calculated on the value of basic custom duty, social welfare surcharge and the entire value. Next, levy of GST compensation cess. If the GST compensation cess percentage is given in the problem, then we are supposed to impose the compensation cess. Next, for some imports, even anti-dumping duty is levied. Yes, anti-dumping duty is not leviable on all kinds of imports. On some imports, anti-dumping duty is leviable. So if it is applicable, then we will be calculating anti-dumping duty also. Next one, the government may also levy safeguard duty to protect domestic industry from any threat. Yes, sometimes the government will be imposing safeguard duty also. So in case if safeguard duty is applicable on some imports, then we are supposed to calculate safeguard duty also to find out the assessable value. So once again, I'll go through. First, we are supposed to find out the basic custom duty payable. Then we will be imposing social welfare surcharge. Afterwards, we will be imposing IGST. Next, we will be imposing compensation cess if it is given in the problem. Next, we will be imposing anti-dumping duty if it is given in the problem. Next, safeguard duty if it is given in the problem. So this is how the custom duty is calculated on import of any goods from any country to India. So in today's session, we got to know about what is customs duty and the types of customs duties we have, and also we learnt about specific duty and ad valorem duty, and we also discussed about the prohibition of importation and exportation. So we will meet in the upcoming classes. Until then, thank you all.